Welcome to the deep dive. We take a bunch of information, sift through it, and pull out the key insights for you.
Yep, cutting through the noise.
Exactly. Today we're focusing on the AI Daily News Digest from May 28th, 2025. It was, well, quite a day.
Oh, yeah. What stood out?
A whole range, really.
Oh,
New AI agents, some pretty big scientific breakthroughs using AI.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah, like AI discovering molecules you didn't even know existed. Yeah. And the usual updates on large language model performance.
Always a hot topic. Okay, sounds good. Let's get into it.
Right, so first up, this idea of an LLM OS.
Ah, yes, the LLM operating system. Standard tools around the APIs.
Exactly. It's not a brand new idea. People were talking about it back in, what, late 2023?
Mm-hmm.
But feels like it's gaining more traction now.
Well, yeah, because Simon Willison put out this updated view of the stack, kind of prompted by Mistral's second go at an agent platform.
Right, Mistral's new agents API. That makes sense. So what's in this stack, according to us? Okay, so the key bits he sees are code execution, running Python safely in a sandbox. That seems essential.
Yeah, for agents to actually do things.
Then web search. He notes Mistral, like Anthropic, seems to be using Brave.
Okay, Brave. Got it.
A document library basically hosted RAG, retrieval augmented generation, pulling in external info.
Standard stuff for making models more knowledgeable, yeah.
Image generation Stroll is using FLUX, apparently, and the model context protocol, MCP, for getting different AI parts to talk to each other properly.
So code search, RE images, communication protocol seems like a solid foundation.
Yeah, but he did point out a couple of areas that seem less nailed down: memory and orchestrator.
Right. How do agents remember things long term, and how do you manage complex workflows?
Although he mentioned orchestrators like Temporal and LangGraph have been around. But interestingly, he missed that Mistral actually built in crosscat memory.
Oh, really? So Mistral included that directly? That's quite significant.
Yeah, and that leads us nicely into Mistral AI actually releasing this new Agents API.
Okay, so tell me about that. What's in the official release?
Well, it pretty much bundles those LLM OS components we just discussed: code execution, web search, MCP tools,
And the memory.
and persistent memory, yeah. Plus what they call agentic orchestration.
Agentic orchestration. So handling the flow between agents or tasks.
Seems like it. Their docs mention it supports persistent state, image generation, handoff capabilities between agents, structured outputs, document understanding, even citations.
Wow, okay. That's quite comprehensive. Sounds like a proper platform.
It does. The basic functions let you, create agents, give them names, instructions, tools. It has connectors for web search, code execution, function calling, and those handoff features for multi-agent stuff.
Function calling is key for connecting to external tools and handoffs for more complex tasks.
Right. It definitely feels like part of this bigger trend towards agent frameworks becoming more, well, usable and feature-rich.
And you mentioned Mistral's positioning.
Yeah, on their blog homepage, they state their priority as being a leading lab for open source AI.
That's a strong statement. Good to see the commitment to open source there.
Definitely. Okay, so from the infrastructure side, let's switch gears to a, frankly, amazing application.
Yeah.
Researchers using AI to discover previously unknown molecules.
Whoa, okay. That is big. Not just analyzing existing stuff, but finding brand new things.
Exactly. The AI is crunching chemical data, finding patterns humans might just miss.
How does it work, roughly?
It analyzes the data and flags potential new molecular structures. And they're working on getting the AI to predict the full structure, not just identify them.
Predicting the full structure, that would be huge for drug discovery, material science, everything, really.
Totally. The potential to speed up discovery is immense. They're talking about fundamentally transforming our understanding of chemical diversity.
It's using specialized AI, I assume, tailored for chemistry.
Yeah, advanced AI and ML algorithms designed specifically for computational chemistry and cheminformatics.
Makes sense. This could really change the game.
Someone commenting on it called it a linchpin for rapid scientific development, expecting much faster breakthroughs.
I can believe it.
They also use this great analogy for a current challenge scrubbing CO2 from the air.
Oh, yeah, carbon capture.
Right. They said isolating CO2 at 400 ppm is like trying to find 400 specific bags of beans mixed into 1,000,000 bags of rice.
Wow. Yeah, that paints a picture of the difficulty.
Exactly. It highlights why we need breakthroughs, maybe finding new molecules that can do these separations more efficiently, which AI could help with.
A very powerful potential application, for sure.
Sure.
Okay, what else was in the digest?
Well, sticking with the agent theme, LangChain AI launched something called the Open Agent Platform, OAP.
LangChain, right? They're big in the tooling space. What's OAP?
It's positioned as an open-source, no-code platform.
No code. Interesting. For building agents?
Yet for building, prototyping, and deploying agents without needing to write code.
So, lowering the barrier to entry? What can you do with it?
It lets users set up tools and supervise their agents, plug in our RAG servers, connect to MCP servers, manage custom agents through a web UI.
Okay, so providing a visual interface for composing these agent systems.
Seems like it. Another player trying to make agent creation easier, but with an open source, no-code angle.
It's interesting to see these different approaches emerging Mistral's API, LangChain's no-code platform.
Yeah, the ecosystem is definitely heating up. Okay, let's shift again. Performance talk, Claude 4.
The benchmark battles. Always
Yeah.
controversial. What's the latest on Claude 4?
Well, mixed signals, really. One source, Scaling 01, noted Claude 4 Sonnet actually did better than the older O3 preview on ARC-AGI 2,
Yeah.
and it's cheaper.
Better and cheaper is good.
But it apparently underperformed on Aider Polyglot, which is a coding benchmark.
So good at one thing, less so at another.
Maybe. Kaitu Jr. suggested maybe Claude 4 is just better suited for those agentic setups, feedback loops rather than just single-shot coding attempts.
That's plausible. Different architectures might excel in different interaction patterns.
Then there was the Aider LLM leaderboard update. Claude 4 Sonnet actually scored slightly lower than Claude 3.7 Sonnet on coding tasks.
Lower. That's surprising. What were the scores?
Very close. 61.3% for Claude 4 Sonnet, 60.4% for Claude 3.7 Sonnet, but still, not the jump people expected.
Yeah, you'd expect the newer model to clearly outperform.
And users on Reddit seem to echo this sometimes. Reports that Claude 3.7 was often more reliable for practical coding, less prompting needed compared to Claude 4 Sonnet.
So the real-world experience maybe doesn't quite match even the benchmark numbers sometimes.
Right, which led to the whole discussion about benchmarks, maybe not capturing everything, or possibly being cooked or overfitted.
The classic benchmark problem. They're useful, but not the whole story.
But on the other hand, Claude 4 did perform well in more advanced frameworks like OpenHands, which involves reasoning and acting. That's seen as more relevant for autonomous systems.
So maybe better at complex multi-step tasks.
Possibly. There was even a warning against using Aider Polyglot now for evaluating these really high-performing autonomous systems, saying it might actually hinder results.
Interesting. The benchmarks themselves need to evolve.
Definitely. There was a Reddit post, "No hate, but Claude 4 is disappointing," showing a chart where Claude 4 models looked less cost-effective on benchmarks compared to competitors like Qwen 3.
Ouch. Cost performance is a big factor.
But then you had commenters pushing back saying, hold on, Claude 4 Sonnet is excellent in real-world agent modes. For developer workflows, error checking, debugging, generating tests, things where models like Gemini might apparently oversimplify.
So better for nuanced, iterative development tasks.
As is the argument. And one person shared an anecdote about fixing complex bugs with Claude 4, where even GPT 3.7 variants failed. So strong problem solving, just maybe not perfectly reflected in raw benchmarks.
It really highlights the need to evaluate based on specific use cases.
Absolutely. And just a practical note, there were reports about ongoing capacity limits for Opus 4 and Claude 4 on AWS Bedrock.
Demand outpacing supply.
Seems like it. Systems sometimes falling back to Claude 3.7 suggest these top models are in high demand, maybe resources are stretched thin, and broader user reports echoed these capacity constraints with Anthropic's high-end models.
Yeah, getting access can still be a challenge. Okay, one last topic.
Yep, one more. The DIA-1B podcast generator, also called GOAT Book LM.
Okay, AI generating podcasts. Tell me more.
It's an open source tool using the DIA-1B audio model that's on Hugging Face to generate dual-speaker podcasts from text.
Dual speaker. Okay. How's the quality?
Well, the main goal of this tool was to fix voice inconsistency issues in the original DIA-1B model. It uses a fixed speaker selection format to keep the voices consistent.
Voice cloning consistency is tricky, so what features does it have?
It's a script-to-audio pipeline. You can assign the two voices, preview bits, regenerate if needed, and export to WAV or MP3.
Sounds useful. Can you run it easily?
Yeah, runnable in Google Colab. And it can optionally use Gemini Flash 2.5 or Sonnet 4 to help enhance the script itself.
Oh, so using LLMs to potentially improve the dialogue before generating the audio. Clever.
There was user feedback about weird pitch shifting effects. Voices sounding lower than expected.
Technical glitches. Common in open source projects, especially early on.
True. There was also talk about different workflows, like automatically pulling papers from Arxiv, summarizing them, and then feeding that into this tool with a fixed seed for reproducible outputs.
Ah, automating the whole content creation pipeline. Interesting.
Yeah, someone shared an example doing just that. Scraper 4 summarize, generate podcasts using DIA with a fixed seed.
Cool concept.
But that technical feedback about the pitch being off for both speakers kept popping up. So potentially an issue in the TTS or the synthesis pipeline they're using.
Needs some debugging, sounds like. But still, a really neat example of AI moving into audio generation.
Definitely. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the May 28th digest.
Quite a bit covered. LMOS ideas firming up, the Mistral and LangChain agent platforms,
That incredible AI molecule discovery.
the ongoing debate around Claude 4's performance and how we even measure these things.
Wrapping up with AI generating podcast audio.
Yeah, the pace doesn't slow down, does it?
Not at all. It really makes you wonder, as these AI systems get more capable, especially in things like reasoning and acting, or even scientific discovery, how do our benchmarks keep up? Or do we need entirely new ways to think about evaluation beyond just percentages on specific tests?
That's a great question. Maybe focusing more on real-world task completion or problem-solving success. It's something the field is actively grappling with.
Definitely something to keep thinking about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.